Hi, Jessica here. Welcome back to my Transgender Nation. Today, I get the opportunity to do an interview with a very special guest, Dr. Bobbie Glass. She is a fellow transgender, and she has an amazing story, and I'm excited for this interview. She is a professor at the University of Cumberland. She also teaches at a high school. She's a former adjunct professor at the University of Louisville, where she earned her doctorate, former executive director at Bluegrass Technology Center, former program developer and director of Alliance of Technology Access at Apple Computer, former executive director at Kentucky Development Disabilities Council, former executive director at Enabling Technologies of Kentuckian, former research and development at American Print House for the Blind, and also former rock star at Satchel Paige. We'll have to ask her about that. I'm not sure what that's about. Former account executive at WKQQ and Village Broadcasting, Inc. This is going to be a great interview. Please welcome with me Dr. Bobbie Glass. Let's get started, okay? Hi, welcome back to my Transgender Nation. I'm your host, Jessica, and today we have a great special guest, Dr. Bobbie Glass. Welcome, Dr. Bobbie.
Well, thank you, Jessica, for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
I'm so glad you could be here today.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Bobbie, you are a fellow transgender, and I know that you are an advocate for the transgender community, and you do a lot to try and help educate the world. If you don't mind, would you mind starting just telling us about your transition? I know you went full time starting in 2017. Tell us how you came transgender. Wow. How did this all start for you?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Boy, it's I'm older than dirt. You know, I was like born in 1950, and if you go back that far, we didn't have any vocabulary back then. So I know
this community, right?
Yeah, and so I was I just growing up in the Appalachian coal fields of Virginia, and I thought I was the only person like me in the whole world. I just knew I was a girl. I just always believed I was a girl, and my environment is telling me something completely different. And it was a source of stress from my earliest memories. And so it wasn't until I was 12 or 13 years old, I saw the 4 words that changed my life. I was reading the Sunday Parade magazine supplement in the Roanoke Times, and kind of like the letters to the editor section. And it was a story about a GI, and basically the 4 words were Christine Jorgensen sex change. And I don't know, 12 or 13 years old, it was like, oh my God, that was a moment I realized that I wasn't the only person in the world that felt this way. And oh my goodness, that was just like one of the most memorable days of my life. And it really was the 4 words that completely changed my life. And it was pretty instant. It was like, I don't know what this is all about, but I'm going to get me one of those, because that just sounds exactly. And you know, it's really hard. It was really hard to find any kind of information. There's no internet, no computers or anything. And, you know, we're in libraries with card catalogs and magazines and newspaper collections. And there was a college library nearby, and I was just trying to devour anything I could find. And, you know, real early on, met with a whole lot of really negative stuff, you know, because there was nothing to read that was positive. It was all in abnormal psychology books, deviant behavior, those types of things. And it's like, oh my gosh, the more I'm reading about this, the worse I'm feeling about everything. But I'm sure that that's me. It's like, damn it, I got to do this. And And the stuff that was out there to read back then just wasn't real positive. And that goes along with the whole world that we grew up with. The American Psychological Association had pathologized everything about being gay, being trans, all of that stuff. If you looked at their journals, it was under sexual perversion, deviant behavior, abnormal psychology. And it really wasn't until the late 80s that they began to relent from that stuff and say, we kind of need to rethink this whole disease model we've got about the LGBT community. But by then, I'm in my 40s, and so.
And you still hadn't done anything yet, right? You had.
Well, right. I mean, I had, but just mainly in the privacy of my own home, I'd had the good sense back in 1976 when I met the woman that would become my first wife. I had enough sense back then to say, listen, there's something you need to know about me, because I could tell we were moving toward marriage. And, and even then we still didn't have the vocabulary, but I did the best I could. And, we were just so young and stupid. And I thought our great sex life was going to cure me.
I understand that well.
Yeah.
They've done that.
And and that just didn't work out. But anyhow, so I guess it's just best to refer to those as the cross-dressing years, because that was the world. The culture was it was sick. It was deviant. Oh my God! Growing up in the South, Louisville is the buckle of the Bible Belt. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
It's just the cultural stuff was just so oppressive, and it still is. Not nearly as bad as it was, but it's still the buckle of the Bible Belt. And we went ahead and had 4 children, and they were awesome. They're the best. They're the most superior human beings I know, and I've been able to raise great children. I say in spite of myself and not because of myself, but I have. They're all 4 grown adult. They're married. All 4 are married, and I've got 10 grandchildren.
Wow.
And then along about 2010. Around there, we're getting to the empty nest years, and all the kids I've gotten them all married off. I've gotten them all through college. They're all having babies in their own homes, and it's like I cannot do this anymore. I'm really skipping over a lot of stuff, but I was incredibly suicidal.
We're sort of paraphrasing the world here today.
Yeah, I was incredibly suicidal. I spent years in conversion therapy and all of this junk that just made everything worse. And really, by the time I was getting to be about 59, there was a book that came out. It was by a hospice nurse, palliative care nurse in Australia, and it was called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And she had spent her whole career just as a nurse, a registered nurse, with people who were dying, and had been keeping a journal of the things they would say about the big regrets that they have in their life. And she did that for her whole career, and then just compiled all of that into the top 5 regrets of the dying. And the number one thing, far and above everything else, and these are just normal, as far as we know, normal heterosexual people dying.
Yep.
And their number one regret was, I wish I'd had the courage to live life true to myself and not the life that everyone expected of me. And that was kind of the straw that broke my camel's back. It was like, damn it, I have not lived a single whole day true to myself true to myself in this whole world. And I was just so suicidal. And it was like, I can't go ahead and successfully complete a suicide until I've done this. And I had to become willing to lose everything, my job, my home, my marriage, my children, everything. And I had just gotten to that point where uh, um, it was either live or die, and live starting all over again. And so, long story short, I just, like I said, I talked to my wife a lot, but as we started having children, she just became more and more adversarial and non-supportive and all that junk. So that's the other thing that's going on. But the kids are all in the dark now. But now they're, adults in their late 20s and 30s and so forth. And it's time. And long story short, I had 4 children. They each had a spouse. So there's 8 adults, and then 10 grandchildren. So it's 18 people, just counting kids and spouses and grandkids. And
That's a
then
crew, right?
my wife. And so there's like, and I thought I was really challenging myself. I want to transition, and I want to bring all of that crew with me. I want them all to transition with me. And we did, except for my ex. And she just, couldn't be a lesbian, basically. And
19 out of 20 made the pass.
yeah, so yeah, that's exactly right. So 95%. That I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that. And like I said, I was able to be about 90% full time. And I want to be careful to mention, I am an employee of the Jefferson County Schools. I'm a faculty member of the University of the Cumberlands, but I don't speak for any of them. I don't represent them at all. Everything is just my personal experience.
Yep.
But part of my problem was I'm a lifelong educator, and I'd like to think I've had a big impact in my state. I was teaching graduate school at the University of Louisville, and at another private university, Campbellsville, and the University of the Cumberlands came looking for me. They wanted to start online education in a big way, and because that's really the way to train teachers and graduate programs. And they just made me a deal. It was just such a sweetheart deal. And they were just so good to me to walk away from all that and come to work for them. And I just, all I saw was the dollar signs, and I jumped. And I didn't even read my contract.
Wow.
So, until it came time to renew it. And then I looked at it, it had a moral turpitude clause. Where they were like this private Christian university that anything, just a hint of being outside of a heterosexual marriage, you could be terminated immediately. Moral turpitude. And it's like, oh hell, what have I gotten myself into? Because here I was in a jam, and like I've just been training people. I've trained so many teachers. Actually, there's over 5,500 teachers that had to come through me for 8 weeks to get their licenses, and so it's like I kind of know everybody.
Yeah.
And so here I am, and I'm all transitioned out, except with my college job. And I was just a scandal waiting to happen, because here I've got these former graduates, and now they're employees, and they're teaching, and actually some of them were in my building. Some of my former students were teachers in my building, and it's, oh, this is just not going to work. And so they had allowed me to teach online from Louisville, so that's how I got away with being trans, because I never had to show up in person on campus.
Okay.
They
Yep.
were so generous to me. And that's what I'm saying. It's just a wonderful sweetheart deal. They're in the eastern part of the state. Well, anyhow, I came back around for contract renewal, and it was just I can't do this, so I've got to resign. Um, and I wrote my letter of resignation. And the president of the university was uh, had not always been the president. He was the dean of academic affairs, and he's actually the man that gave me my job. He's actually the man that tried everything he could to recruit me to come there,
Okay.
and gave me everything I wanted. Was just one of the most supportive people ever. And as I can't resign. I can't just send in a letter or fax my resignation. I'm going to go talk to him face to face, because he's been really good to me and he deserves that. And so I went down there and I told him, I said, this is your position statement. Oh my gosh. They were getting a lot of funding from conservative right wing kind of organizations and all that stuff. And I just said, it's really time for me to go. And he refused to accept my resignation.
Really?
He says, at that point, he says, you've been here for 12 years. You're one of our best, and working with you is the right thing to do. It was just as simple as that. It's just the right thing to do to keep you here and work through this. And we talked, and I said, but you don't realize what you're saying here. I've already got 90 people signed up for my summer school classes, and they signed up for somebody named Bob. And Pearl over in human resources, she's going to have a cow when she has to start changing my gender marker and all this stuff. And he said, well, just let me worry about that. And he just decided right there on the spot that he was going to eliminate all of that language from all of the policies and everything. It was like, it turned out that the former president was the one that was a homophobe, and the one that had insisted on all of that. And this guy had never really gone along with it. And it just all evaporated right there. I had gone to turn in my resignation. So I became the first openly LGBT faculty, anybody, student, staff, anything in the 135-year history of the organization. And to their credit, it just everything rolled. So when I put down there 2017, that's when it was 100% out all the time. No more secrets, no more nothing.
Yep.
And so that's how that happened. But I really needed that income. I really needed that job. And I was playing these games and trying to be stealth and all of this stuff. And it just, like I say, I was just a scandal waiting to happen under those previous guidelines. And so I tried to resign, but they wouldn't let me. And so couldn't have had a happier ending. And it's just been great. That was, however, 5 years ago, and it's just been really great. So
excellent. Well, congratulations that you were able to keep your job. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was flabbergasted.
Yeah. So you were full time as of 2017, and here
that's it. That's right. There's no more no more clothes or no man box hidden in under the step anywhere in case there's I changed my mind. None of that crap. It just so yeah, and since. Yep, it's 2017.
So you're also an advocate for our community, correct?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you do to support the transgender community in your
life. I do all kinds of stuff because of all the stuff I had to work through.
Yeah.
And kind of some of the conclusions I had to come to about who I am and what I deserve in this life and so forth. And so there's a couple of different fronts that I fight on where I have my war. And one of them has to do with public education, and the other has to do with the Bible Belt. And with the public schools, and as again, it's a long story, but about 7 years ago, um, there was a transgender student in one of our high schools that wanted to come out and transition, and use the women's bathroom and locker room and all that, and of course that caused an uproar, and but it was like I got to get in there. I mean, this is crazy. These people are being hysterical over nothing. And anyhow, one thing led to another, and the superintendent of the schools at that time realized that she needed a small group of advisors to help them develop policy and procedures on how to handle LGBTQ students and staff. And invited me in. And so there's been a small group of about a dozen of us that have been meeting with the superintendent every month for the last 7 years to help them craft the policies for supporting students and staff coming out and transitioning, and coming up with all the policies and procedures and things like that. And so I've worked really, really tirelessly to do things with like making it easy to change your name and pronouns in the statewide computer system. Um, 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 Training support coaches, and there's 187 different school buildings in our district, and we've been trying to put support coaches in each one of them. Most of them are counselors that have gotten some additional training in our issues, and forming the Gay Straight Alliance GSAs in the high schools and the middle schools, and working with different parents. I'm on the board of directors of the Louisville Youth Group, which is like the premier organization in this part of the world for supporting LGBTQ adolescents, teens, children, and their families. And I'm also real involved with PFLAG for years. And so what I've been trying to do through all of that is to be that advocate that makes those school years pleasant. And the superintendent was replaced by an even more terrific ally, our new superintendent. Just a wonderful man. He before he became superintendent, he was the principal at a high school in the South End, and he had a LGBTQ safe place sign up on his door. And when he was a principal at this big high school, and I was asking him about that, and his answer was just so simple, but it was so wise. It's like, if kids don't feel like they belong here, they're not going to learn anything. And it was just as simple as that. We have to do, and we have to be whatever we need to do to help kids feel like they belong here, feel like they're safe, feel like they can learn. And so that's kind of been their attitude. Our main big school board attorney is an openly gay man. All of the school board members are all elected, but they're all still in our corner. So as far as the issues go, the deck is really stacked. We got a lot of friends in high places up here, but then it's down on the school building level. That's where the implementation issues are. And the thing that bothers me the most is bullying of the kids. And it's relentless, and it's worse now than it's ever been. It's absolutely a horrible, dreadful time to be different.
Do you think that the being in the state that you're in, you're in Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think the fact that you're in Kentucky has a lot to do with that?
Well, yeah, it's a red state.
Like the parents' mindset, if you will, that's sort of handed down to children.
Exactly. It's exactly. Where do these kids learn their hate? They
Yeah,
learn it from their
exactly.
parents.
Yes.
And so, just in terms of statistics and everything, the LGBTQ kids are bullied more, they're verbally assaulted more, they're physically assaulted more.
Scary.
Their absenteeism, they're scared to come to school. And so that stuff just makes me livid. And the main thing that makes me livid is because when those students say they went and talked to a teacher about the bullying, the teacher did nothing. And so that has been my big crusade for the last 2.5 years. It's like, that has got to stop, because you're exactly right. The kids learn bullying from the adults in their life,
Yeah.
and it's their attitudes. And so we've had to take all of this acceptance and everything outside of the religious context and just put it all in the context of Title IX and sexual harassment and hostile work environment and those sorts of things. And
Yeah.
so and so when we counsel with those faculty members and those principals and assistant principals and the students, they get the message real clear that they're violating, they're in violation of Title IX if they continue this, and how far do you want to take this battle? And most of them relent pretty quickly, but it's hard, very emotional work, because
Drained too, I would think, right?
yeah, it's because uh, the bullying is just it's worse now than ever. And especially, we're in a state that's doing all the anti-trans athletic bills and all of that stuff. And what we were able to get through our high school athletics associations, as far as our elementary and middle schools go, uh, you can be on whatever team you identify with. No questions asked. But another thing I'm just really angry about is high school, though, they demand gender confirmation surgery if you want to be on a team that doesn't match the sex you were assigned at birth. And of course, that's horrible. That's so invasive. It's risky. It's expensive. It's a ridiculous requirement. And that's just part of the hysteria that's going on now. And so our General Assembly's meeting now, they have those bills are trying to get through. And so there's a whole bunch of us over there working the General Assembly to try to keep that stuff from happening. And I'm pretty sure that it's not going to happen, because the governor's already assured us that he's going to veto it, but there's also enough people in the General Assembly to override that. So it's just an ugly time.
Do you find that the school board members are also a pushback?
Not here. Not here.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, not here. They get it. And it's a non-issue, it just really is. How many people have ever had a horrible experience in a bathroom with a trans person? Never happens.
I know. I don't know what they think we're going to do.
It's like
we're just here to go to the bathroom like everybody else.
I know, and it's just so obvious what's gone on is that when the Supreme Court ruled in favor of same-sex marriages, they lost their big boogeyman for all this hysteria that's going to ruin the fabric of the nation. And so they turned their attention to the trans community immediately. And it began in North Carolina with the bathroom bills. And then those things were duplicated in the state legislatures all over the state. And so we've all been going through all of that ever since we got same-sex marriage. It's like the lens. And so it just makes me so angry that the trans community have been turned into pawns. And the thing that is so infuriating is Um, I'm in the trenches with these kids. I see firsthand what this hostility is doing to children. Um, um, I I'm I've I'm in my 44th year of special education,
Oh,
uh,
bless you. That's awesome.
and and for the last decade, I really wanted to get myself in a position where uh, I work with the toughest kids in the state. Those are the kids I wanted. And I finally got myself there. I'm in a psychiatric facility that's got 140 kids that are hospitalized for treatment because they are unfit to attend a normal public school. Their emotional problems, their abuse, their trauma, whatever's it just, well, a whole lot of my students are there because they attempted suicide over LGBT bullying.
Wow. Wow.
And and I've got them every period. Every period, I've got a trans student now, and that population is really growing.
Yeah.
And we have had kids commit suicide over these issues, and so I'm the one that talks to those parents. And so when I say I'm in the trenches with this misery, I really am, and that's why I'm so passionate and livid about what's going on, because these people, they are clueless about what they're doing to children, and all the kids that are identifying. And I'm not yeah, I'm just guessing that by the 6th grade you were pretty sure you knew exactly who you were and who you were attracted to and all of that stuff. And it's like, kids know.
Yeah.
And just the bullying and harassment and non-support that's going on is just awful. And so I said there's two fronts I'm fighting on. And so what's going on in the public schools
Yeah.
is huge. That's a big part of my business. And I spend, after I teach my kids and do my classes, I spend the rest of the day working on those issues for the school board and the policies and going to meetings and stuff like that. I'm meeting with a bunch of counselors tomorrow afternoon after school, to help equip them for some stuff ahead. Um,
You get time to sleep somewhere in there or what?
yeah, and I did a PFLAG group yesterday, uh, um, and so I'm real involved with that. But the other part of it is we live in the South, and um, and it is the Bible Belt, and just the mistranslations of the Bible and the culture that's been permeated. Uh, um, People have weaponized scriptures,
Sure.
and that's where all of this hostility and all of this cultural stuff comes from in my part of the world is false teaching, bad teaching. Um, um, uh, the word homosexual never appeared in the Bible until 1946. And that was the American Standard version. The translators had gotten together. And before that, the word had always been equivalent to our English word pedophile. But during the early part of the 1900s, that word was starting to, find its way into our vocabulary. And I'm not sure about all the politics that were going on, but that was a mistranslation to take pedophile.
And turn it into homosexual.
And pedophiles, in case anybody has forgotten, are usually heterosexual males. Most of them are married, who have gotten themselves in some kind of leadership position with easy access to children. Now, that is not us, but still, we live and operate in a culture that has taken that mistranslation, and they have gotten so invested in it. There are groups that are built on hatred of anybody that doesn't love like they think people ought to love. So that's,
The highway, right?
yeah. And so that's the other thing that I do. Louisville is home of the Southern Baptist Seminary, among other things, and they're some of the worst for promoting conversion therapy. And so another thing that I do is that I'm a spokesperson for Banned Conversion Therapy Kentucky, which is really conversion torture. It's when these parents that belong to these really conservative churches try to change their children, and they put them into conversion therapy. And that just makes everything worse. The suicide rates, the attempted suicide rates, the substance abuse, the depression, everything skyrockets once a kid is entered into conversion therapy. Some claim to have some success, and they pray away the gay, and that worked for a couple of years, but it's a horrible way. And so we have managed to get conversion therapy outlawed in our three largest cities, in Louisville, Lexington, and Northern Kentucky, the Covington area, out just across the river from Cincinnati. And what we've done is, through our General Assembly, we took it through the licensing groups, board certifications and licensing, and where you cannot keep your license as a therapist if you practice conversion therapy with anyone.
That's a good way to approach it.
Yeah, if you practice it on anyone 18 or under. And so we've got bipartisan support now. That's another bill with all of these anti-trans athletic things floating through. We've also got a bill to ban conversion therapy statewide going through, and so I'm real involved with that aspect of it. There's another group of filmmakers that are producing a film right now called 1946, which is an expose on that whole mistranslation, and how this small group of people made a mistake that totally shifted culture all over the world. It was just within a couple of years, all the translations of the Bible had put this new word, homosexual, in there that was never intended to be in there. If you go back and you look at the things that Jesus taught about, Jesus grew up in a world. He grew up in a world where homosexuality was very common. The Hebrew language has over 6 different terms for gender: feminine men and masculine women, and people that have no gender at all. And they had eunuchs, and it was like a very gender diverse world.
How the hell did we end up here? That's what I want.
Yeah, exactly. and so if you just look at the words, Jesus never said one syllable of condemnation against this group. And so it was just that word popped up in some of the letters of Paul. But anyhow, so that's the other thing that I do, is I'm trying my best to change the culture here. And we have more accepting and affirming churches, and just trying to bring back, there's so many people that just hate, that are missing out on so much that love has to offer, because they've been hurt and damaged so badly by the church. And
Sure.
And so I'm trying to stop that too. And I used to be a part of that misery too. I was part of a church that promoted that crap too. Full disclosure, and it was another thing driving me crazy too. but anyhow, so yeah, and I'm just staying real busy with those two things. I work
Yeah, it
real
sounds
hard.
like you're quite busy, so that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm working really hard to change the whole culture of it was just love your neighbor. Just love your neighbor, your gay neighbor, your Muslim neighbor, your black neighbor. Just you'll love your poor neighbor, your rich neighbor. It's just, can we just love our neighbors? And what's so hard about that? But
I don't know. I wish I knew the answer to that one.
But it's like people that and that came with European Christianity and colonizing and all of that kind of stuff. And it just really, and people are so invested in their religious beliefs. And I know that I'm not going to be able to persuade everybody, but we call them the movable middle.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a group of people that are, what does it really say? I want to understand this. And so I'm real busy working with groups and churches and people
That's
that are
amazing.
trying
Thank
real
you
hard.
for all you do for our community. That is just,
But
that's very powerful. Before
um,
we go today, I have another question for you, and that would be, if somebody who's watching this is, an advocate or wants to be an advocate for the transgender community,
yeah.
how would you tell them, what's the best thing they could do to help somebody who is, or just help the community in the transgender world?
That is such a great question, because I was scared to death of that. That was something I never wanted to be. It was like when I first started going to meetings of like trans women, like little support groups, and there were some advocate types there, and I was so scared to death they were going to ask me to go be out on the streets with them in a pride parade or something like, oh, please don't ask me to do anything. Don't even ask me to stuff envelopes or fold pamphlets. Please don't ask me. And so I was terrified of all of that. I really was. And so it's all right. It's all right to be terrified, because so many of us have been conditioned and filled with anxiety about what we've got to lose if our big secret ever gets out there or whatever. And I did lose everything in my divorce. I got to keep my car, and I
Oh,
had to
there you
start
go.
all over again with my car, and but anyhow, my life just has turned fabulous ever since then. But it was hard in the beginning,
Yep.
and so I get that fear, and you just have to work your way slowly into it. You have to, you have to sit out the pride parade for a couple of years and then say, well, maybe I'll just go stand in the crowd. and just doing stuff like that and meeting people, and you start finding all these really fabulous people. But the thing that just really just kind of did me in was when this young trans woman at Atherton High School wanted to transition, and the community was coming down. That I don't know. That it. I don't know. It just kind of lit a fuse, and it was like, I'm in this fight.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm in this fight. Let me at him. And it just kind of took off since then. So
Very good.
something that just personally resonated with me, and the bathroom bills and all of that stuff that were also going on at the same time. It's like I have gone from all of that, you know. Cultural brainwashing stuff of the Deep South, the self-loathing and all of that, yucky stuff, to just the opposite is, and there's nobody in this world that's going to make me feel inferior to them, and just don't even try. You can't do it. I am not less than any
Yeah.
other human being on this planet, and there's no way you're going to succeed in trying to make me less than you or anybody else. And so I've just I don't know that that's not a conviction or a strength or a personality trait I adopted overnight. I was as
Oh, sure. Came
scared.
over time. Yeah.
I was as scared as anybody could be scared,
Yeah.
and I just just kept wading a little deeper into the water.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Baby steps, right?
yeah,
How
yeah.
do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Right. How do you eat an elephant? Yeah, one bite at a time.
Well, Dr. Bobbie, thank you so much for taking the time today and telling us your
Oh,
story. And thank you very much for all you do for the transgender community.
oh, thank you. I know I'm
You're
long-winded.
I'm fascinated by listening to your story myself. I hope others are as well. So
Yeah.
this has been great. So I greatly appreciate you coming today
Oh,
and telling our community your story, and hopefully we will help some others to awaken them up a little bit and
yeah.
help
Thank you.
somebody who's transitioning or help somebody who's just trying to understand our community as well.
Yeah, you've got so much going on in Connecticut, and you're in a really good place, and so
Well, thank you.
I think it's a healthy part of the world to be living in, and getting better all the time.
Yep, bit by bit, does get better all the time, for
Yeah,
sure. Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, this is Jessica from My Transgender Nation. I thank you for watching our video today. Like and share on YouTube. You can find us at mytransgendernation.com as well. We're on Facebook, My Transgender Nation. We're on Instagram. So find us and join us. And if you have questions, send them. If you have suggestions for other videos, let us know, and we will do our best to try and accommodate what you come up with.
Mhm.
You all have a great day, and we'll talk to you really, really soon. Thank you again.
Yeah.